Bites. The process of scientific discovery is one of observation, data collection, evaluation, and putting forth theories to explain our world. Ideas that have stood for decades are sometimes toppled, and new findings revolutionize our thinking. In today's Science Bite, museum scientist Steve Holen talks about the quest to identify the time period when humans first arrived in the Americas and the discoveries that have shaped our views.
When did humans arrive in North America? The answer is we actually don't know. We've been studying this subject for over 100 years, and it's still a hotly debated topic among archaeologists and other scientists who study human adaptations. Today, we know that humans have been in the Americas for at least 14,500 years, based on well-accepted evidence from several sites. But there is mounting evidence that humans were here much earlier than that. In the early 1900s, scientists at the Smithsonian Institution thought that ancestors of Native Americans had only arrived in the Americas 3,000 to 4,000 years earlier. But in light of important discoveries made in the 1920s and 1930s, including some made by the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, the estimate of human arrival was changed overnight. In 1927, Jesse Figgins' paleontological crew discovered what we term Folsom spear points among the bones of a giant straight-horned bison at a site in New Mexico. This discovery completely upended what we knew about early humans in the Americas because these straight-horned bison only lived here during the last glacial period. In one fell swoop, the age of early humans in North America went from 4,000 years ago to 10,000 years ago. In the early 1930s, Clovis spear points were found among mammoth bones at a site near Clovis, New Mexico. Both of these sites demonstrated that humans were here at the end of the last glacial period about 10,000 years ago. This benchmark stood for several decades until a new technology was invented to help estimate the age of sites. In the early 1950s, radiocarbon dating of organic material proved that Clovis sites were actually 13,000 years old, several hundred years older than Folsom sites. Prior to this time, relative stratigraphic position, or how deep something was buried, was the only way to estimate the age of sites. Between the 1940s and the 1990s, many other sites were discovered that were thought to be older than Clovis at 13,000 years ago. But it wasn't until 1997 that the Monteverde site in Chile was generally accepted by the archaeological community to be older than Clovis. This discovery moved the timeline back to about 14,500 years ago. I'm working on sites now that could reset the clock back another 20,000 years. This is preliminary, but it is possible that humans were here 35,000 years ago, breaking mammoth and bison bones. Radiocarbon dating in geological context suggests these bones are 21,000 to 35,000 years old, and it appears to me that these two notches have been produced by humans using hammerstones.
Okay, go.
By doing experimental archaeology, we have replicated these fracture patterns on modern elephant bone by using large hammerstones. There we go. This research gives us the opportunity to tell the story of human adaptations across planet Earth. Knowing when they arrived helps us understand the ecosystems they would have encountered and what they needed to survive in areas never populated before. We seek to answer these questions using the scientific process to explain what appears to be human interactions with animals in far earlier times. This is what excites me about being a scientist.
DMNS